Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Khorne and the High Elves here on one of the new maps. This is the Glade of the Everqueen. Now, as far as the build goes for my Khorne forces, the entire front line is going to be warriors. Now, these guys are a little bit vulnerable against things like White Lions, as well as Swordmasters, which my opponent actually brought, I think, 3 or 4 Swordmasters, so a little bit scary. However, the Chaos Warriors have good enough stats that they can hold, and a little bit of a cheeky combo I've kind of discovered against some of these armored infantry factions as Khorne is to use the either Skull Cannons or the Blood Throne. So you just kind of stack these on top of your Chaos Warriors. They do really good armor piercing damage in melee with a bonus for infantry of 24, and they can also replenish their ammo, so there's actually a little bit of dual purpose on these, and they really do shine. On top of that, we do have a Blood Shrine of Khorne. The Blood Shrine is going to be constantly healing via Gore Feast, and the Totem of Endless Bloodletting is also quite good. So these warriors are going to be put up to 54 melee attack, which actually lets them trade okay into like armor-piercing troops like White Lions. I think actually they would beat the White Lions most likely with the Blood Shrine near them. So yeah, it's just basically all warriors. And my reasoning behind that is like, yes, you might be expecting like White Lions and Swordmasters, but if they go with a bunch of Sisters of Avalorn and Archers and just like pound you at a distance, if you don't have like durable, shielded troops, you're really going to pay the troll toll. So I'm actually a big fan of the standard Chaos Warrior of Khorne. Double Skull Cannon, Horseman being summoned in, and we do have Valkia. Valkia is just very good. Now for my opponent here, Xiphos is going to be coming in with Imric as well as a Mage of Life, Dwellers, Swordmasters, and honestly, when I first loaded into this game, I was sweating bullets. I was like, oh man, I hope my Skull Cannons can do work. I've had success before, but not against a player as strong as Xiphos, so very scary stuff. He does also have Sisters of Avalorn to the backside, and that appears to be it. So Valkia is going to be cruising up. She's looking to party, eyeing Imric. Imric would absolutely smash Valkia in a fight. He doesn't have any of his items, I don't believe. Yeah, he's got the Lord of Dragons and the Vuvuzela, the Dragon Horn. And I didn't bring the Demon Shield. I was kind of using her as more of like a hit and run type character in this game, so she's not going to be wielding the mighty Demon Shield, which does make her invulnerable for 13 seconds, which arguably is probably worth the 200 gold now that I kind of look at it. I'm like, I could get in there and go fisticuffs with Imric and, probably take like 10-15% of his HP during that trade, then run away. Like, that's probably good. Every single time you activate that, it's like guaranteed damage. But Marauder Horsemen of Khorne are really good here, especially with the prevalence of elite infantry my opponent has brought. They do armor piercing with their ranged attacks. Unlike the Javelin variant, they can actually tear down some of these troops, but Sister is able to screen them back. They do have 180 range, which is incredible. And so far, you guys can see the ammunition of my Skull Cannons. I have been shooting nonstop and literally just missing every single shot, which is pretty hilarious. But let's see what we can do against the Sisters from downtown, baby. And oh, that was really disappointing. Wow, I don't remember it being that bad. I was kind of excited, but nonetheless, Skull Cannons still do heal in melee, if I'm not mistaken. They have the Gore Feast. They do also have the Skull Feast, so they can replenish ammo. So over the course of the newer, longer, I wouldn't say newer, but how Domination is now, with a little bit of longer trading, they can actually do well. And in my experience, they can fight off things like Silver Helms and Dragon Princes to a decent effect with their 110 armor, and they don't take too much damage there. So now they're going to be turning around, and they're like, oh hey, Illyrian Reavers. They're going to be doing their sweet 360 no-scopes as they do move into those units. And what was cool about this is I wasn't unhappy. I was like, okay, I'm just going to replenish some ammo in combat. So we get into combat, we do a little bit of damage against the Reavers, and honestly, it goes okay. So Objective 3 is currently owned by us, Objective 2 by me, and my opponent is going to be controlling Objective 1. But now the Elves are looking to push to war. So we do see the Swordmasters of Hoth coming out. Imric gets friendly fired by some of the ladies on the ground. So they certainly maybe have it out for him there, who knows. Skull Cannons now ripping shots, and not bad. The things that Skull Cannons really do a lot of damage against are cavalry, war wagons, chariots. That's where Skull Cannons really shine. So ideally, if they have like Dragon Princes, Silver Helms, that's what you really want to be shooting here. Nonetheless, Chaos Warriors of Khorne going to pull back, so too will the Skull Cannons. Valkia looking for a Spear of Sleipnir, and I believe she did get it back here. And we do have the Swordmasters now moving in on us, so it's going to get a little bit messy, but nonetheless, Blood Shrine of Khorne is on its way over. Figure it'll be pretty useful against the Swordmasters in kind of an isolated fight. Really, like when you guys are playing against like big characters like Imric, I mean, some factions have the tools to punish him, but with what I have, like a couple Haggard throwing axes, like it's if he sits still, sure, but Xiphos isn't going to sit still, right? So I really probably just avoid him. Just bounce back and forth where he is. I don't know if you guys saw the tournament game the other day where I played Greenskins against Dark Elves. It's basically just avoiding Malekith and playing the other objectives, and kind of like, right now, this is a win. You want to know why? Because Imric costs like 1,000 more gold than Valkia, and he's just wasting time chasing that. So that gives me like 1,000 gold surplus somewhere else on the battlefield, right? Now just pulling back here, using throwing axes against the Swordmasters, and we do have the Blood Shrine kind of ready to run them over. On the other side, we have a decent little scrap. It's the double Skull Cannons, battling Reavers and a Mage of Life, and honestly not a bad fight. I do get some Fleshhounds of Khorne coming about, trying to get us around on this formation, and Bloodletters were summoned from the back. So Bloodletters will lose to Swordmasters, but they'll also do decent damage. They do have bonus for infantry and good armor piercing. Oh, look at that shot. Very iconic. Look at that Demons versus the Immortals here. Cool stuff. But Bloodletters getting smashed, but also giving the business back to these guys. And with the double Skull Cannons in here, look at the damage they're actually doing in melee. Suddenly, these Haggard Bloodletters, which cost, 400 or 500 less, are winning the fight because of these Skull Cannons, which again have that shooting utility. And the Fleshhounds here, also doing a great job against the Reavers. Now, back in the middle of the battlefield, we did get some Dragon Princes coming in, but that's why these shielded Chaos Warriors are so good. Like, you could see this, like, they're fighting an elite anti-infantry unit, and they're still, tanking it like champs or getting shot by arrows. Now, that's largely because of the Blood Shrine of Khorne, just running over these guys and doing a lot of damage, but it's still just, these basic Chaos Warriors are just so tough to uproot. Now, it looks like there's going to be a Dweller's Blow coming in from Zyphos, very nice cast, going to be dragging many of these Chaos Warriors to the depths, to the pits from whence they came, so that will be quite nice. And in the backfield, my horsemen do get pushed back by his Dragon Princes. A little bit of sloppy micro on my part, and he does use the Dragon Horn. So the Dragon Horn is active, his whole army's got melee attack. Going to be quite nice, but Swordmasters here are getting smashed by these Skull Cannons. And the Fleshhounds might be able to get the Mage of Life, which would be a really big backbreaking play. And again, the durability of these warriors, they're just moving up, pushing back the Sisters of Avalorn, and probably going to be taking this objective for me. Now, as far as the objectives go, you can see the timers have been adjusted. The super cool stuff in the mod, so shout out to Clisson here. But 20 minutes until I win, and 10 minutes till my opponent wins, with controlling the two objectives, right? So you get to kind of see a little bit of a metric in that regard, which is quite neat. And look at the ammunition. The Skull Cannon's been able to replenish ammo this entire time. I don't have them at fire at will at the moment. I was trying to be a little bit more tactical with them. And just pulling back, going to be leaving the Bloodletters in there to trade, and they'll trade very effectively into Reavers, honestly. I mean, Reavers, although 38 melee defense might be able to hold up, but they'll still cut through them. And Valkia, this is a bad one. If I lose Valkia, my entire army takes a big leadership penalty. So she's a cool duelist and all, but Imrik is a beast. I mean, Star Dragons are one of the scariest monsters in the game, so you don't want to be messing with this. And Valkia knows. She doesn't want to end up like she did in the trailer, so she's going to be running away. And I just have to basically use her as like the gingerbread man and try and get Imrik to chase her. That's the basic strategy here. So Bloodletters fighting, Fleshhounds being very good. Fleshhounds are an incredibly good unit. And at the back, some Swordmasters did overextend, so I pulled my Skull Cannons in melee, got my Marauder Horsemen, ran them down. And Khorne Marauder Horsemen are no joke. They actually have 44 melee attack, so they get into melee and they thump. Like, they are not weak. So we did steal the back objective, which is pretty big, and basically now I'm just like, okay, you can shoot into these silver shields, I'm down to party, so just going to be leaving those guys on the point. And back here we do see this objective is under my control as well. However, just playing wherever Imrik is in it. Like I said, that's really the big thing. And look at that. Oh, is that the capture weight on the objective? Dude, that is so cool that it shows the capture weight on objectives. Man, this is a nice patch for this mod. Dude, this is so useful. We should probably just... Maybe I should talk to him about just including this in the Total Tavern map pack. Like, it's like it goes together. That would actually be really interesting. The only unfair thing is, like, I think it's good for casting replays, but if the players have the same information where they can see their opponent's wins of magic, I don't know if that's really like a fair thing. I think it should be something that you should be more aware of. So yeah, maybe not. Maybe just for replays. But yeah, really nice for replays for sure. So, double Skull Cannon's going to be maneuvering, now getting some Forsaken of Khorne out. I figured they're good against Rangers, good against Spearmen. They hit very hard, 63 attack here. I think of all the Chaos factions lately, I've been playing a little bit of Tzeentch, a little bit of Khorne. I think Khorne is probably my favorite to play. I think it's just like my inner boomer, just not wanting to have to like micro and use magic. I'm like, I have an excuse for that now, which is great. So we're holding on to this objective, and now that Imrik's coming over here, what we will be doing is pulling some units over here. So the Forsaken will be moving on over to 3, and we get some Fleshhounds and some Furies emerging from the forest, and those Sisters of Avalorn should be pretty good picks. Now, value trading this game's like dead even, 8.6 to 8.6. Like, we are just nail close here. It is so tight. And the Fleshhounds of Khorne, again, trading up into Reavers pretty well. Reavers, can get through them. I think head-to-head a Fleshhound would win pretty decisively, but considering they're beat up, Reavers are still a decent option here. In Bloodletters, I think once you've softened up your opponent's archers are a good choice. I think opening with Bloodletters isn't good. They're too squishy, and Demonic Crumbling is actually balanced, unlike Undead Crumbling, and that they take a shitload of damage when they're actually crumbling down. So I think using them as like a tertiary support piece to come in, although if you're playing against somebody who can't shoot and like has to fight you, maybe they would be a decent opening, but I like opening with durability to establish yourself in the battlefield and then pulling in like the more glass cannon type units. I mean, again, these things are durable as well, right? Skull Cannon, so I felt pretty safe opening up with those. So Skull Cannon shots, and getting a little bit of damage here, and like they've been shooting a lot of the game, and they haven't run out. A little bit of obstruction, some Bronzodia micro on my part, but pulling in the Horsemen into combat, trying to drag down the Dragon Princes, but Imrik's coming, And the old Rangers are coming as well, so the Rangers going to be putting some hurt on these Horsemen for sure. So the Horsemen are pushed back here as the Lord of Dragons gets a Mass Terror out, and I'm in danger of losing my back objective. Granted, each Skull Cannon does have 3 capture weight, so I can use that. You can see the current capture weight right now is going to be favoring, okay, I believe that shows them having a 1.9 advantage. Yeah, okay, so you can kind of see the capture weight there, which is so cool. Side objective, though, under our control, we use the Blood Shrine of Khorne and the Fleshhounds, and now we're going to be moving on over to wherever Imric isn't. Although I think the main thing here was to clear out his infantry. I knew I had to kind of sacrifice some elements here because Imric was going to kill everything. So I'm just like, okay, let's kill as many Rangers as we can. Imric himself doesn't have cap weight. And you can see where I tried to get the Skull Cannons back. I was like, let's try shooting at Imric. But it did so little damage. I was just like, dude. Now, this was a dicey play here. I landed Valkia to try and break the Reavers, but I just didn't register how close Imric was. So, like, if Imric had turned around and came after Valkia here, that could be brutal. And here comes Forsaken. So, Forsaken versus Silver and Guard. Silver and Guard have high armor. Honestly, they might not hold bad here. Like, the Silverans might take very little damage. Granted, we did get a good charge, but Forsaken themselves are very, very squishy. We got some warriors coming and really going to be trying to wrestle this objective, and there's another unit of Silveran. So I don't think the Forsaken will be up to the task, especially considering my opponent here is going to be coming in with the Sisters. Sleipnir is going to get cast from Valkia, which does really good damage. Should have had that on the big unit here, but he was moving it, so it was a little bit hard to get them. And the Haggard Marauder Horsemen did come back in, and we end up running over to the Rangers, clearing them out, and another unit of Rangers is coming. I like, this game was so tight. It was so close. My opponent, a little bit behind on value, about 900, so we did pull a little bit of a value lead. And, you know, honestly, he has healing, though, so much of the value lead that I have is being countermanded by the healing on Imric. But I still have healing too, like my Blood Shrines and Skull Cannons, like those things have been healing quite a bit this game. So it goes both ways actually, which is weird hearing that Khorne has healing, but it is the Blood God after all. You think he would figure out a way to kind of, you know, give some medicine to his people. Now at the back we get Chaos Warriors and Chaos Warriors. I know that the momentum is starting to shift a little bit. I could feel it here. I could feel it back here. At this point, I was like, okay, let's get our durability. We have a decent point lead of 829 to 685, so let's get some durability out on the battlefield and just try and get to the objectives and just hold them. And I still had my mobile goon squad, right? I had the 2 Skull Cannons. I got a full health unit of Bloodletters over here. Valky's in decent shape, and we're still pressuring the back objective reasonably well. Granted, the Forsaken were a little bit disappointing. You can see the Forsaken have only gotten 472 on value. Granted, they were fighting Silverans. Valkyria herself hasn't gotten that much either, just a little bit under 1,000. Bloodshine only 500, but it still picked off quite a few models on those elite units. And the Skull Cannons have both paid for themselves. I mean, they've gotten, you know, around 1,000 value, give or take. I believe they cost 1,100. And watch how effective they are against the Rangers here. So they're going to move in. Big Chad Chaos Warriors have come in, and these guys are just so tough to remove. In Khorne, Chaos Warriors are immune to psychology, not while the Mark of Khorne is active, but while Frenzy is active. So when their leadership is about 50%, they are ITP from that. So, I mean, it's kind of like not as good as like Slaanesh. Slaanesh just gets ITP on everything, which is just absurd. But, yeah, Khorne tries their best. So, Horsemen. No Horsemen? No, Horsemen are still around. I think they have some on the other side. But Warriors have gotten into combat. Rangers are going to get absolutely smashed. This is an extremely one-sided fight. Just these giant, like, 8-foot-tall Chaos Warriors with full heavy-duty armor and marks of Khorne looking pretty badass. Backed up by Skull Cannons, which I do not believe cause terror. That would actually be a nice buff for them to make them a little bit more useful if they could terror out things. I mean, I would totally be terrified if, like, a Blood Shrine came at me, right? But that thing causes fear. Nonetheless, Bloodletter's fighting pretty well, being buffed by the Blood Shrine, getting 44 melee attack, makes them trade better into units that they don't necessarily perform well against. Breath attack from Imric coming downtown, and on the backside, we did see the Isolated Sisters, and I used the Relentless Rage to make them, I thought it was they couldn't lose models. It gives Unbreakable and they can't lose models as well. Yeah, entities can't die. So I knew Sisters were pretty fighty, so I was trying to get a little bit of a jump on them and actually grind them down. Forsaken have come back here. Nice Dweller's Blow coming in from Zyphos. Good to be nailing those Chaos Warriors as the 2 Skull Cannons maneuver off to the side and are probably going to be looking to go after those Sisters there. Don't know if that's the right play, but we're certainly going to try. So, at the current rate, I'll be winning the game in 3 minutes and 35 seconds. And of course, you can see my opponent's timer right there as the Haggard Blood Shrine just kind of jukes out Imric. And hey, if Imric wants to chase that thing, I am down to party. We can do that all day. So Bloodletter is holding on to the point. Back here, Valkia trying to support the Hounds. The Hounds actually got a fair amount of damage, and it looks like, yeah, wow, these Fleshhounds have gotten 1,700 value. They're just such a good unit. But, you know, every faction needs a couple good units that are really kind of the defining pieces, because if you just, like, take those away, some of these factions would just be bad. Like, if you took away or nerfed Fleshhounds from Khorne, they would probably drop down to, like, a 40% win rate faction instead of, you know, around 50. Same with the Empire. If you nerfed War Wagons without buffing anything else, Empire would just be in the pits. They would probably, like, go down to, like, 38, 35%, in my opinion. But, yeah, you know, it's the nature of Total War. The many factions are defined by their best units, right? To a large extent, which isn't a problem, right? It is what it is. You got 23 factions, man. It's crazy we even have a semblance of balance. So Chaos Warriors battling against Swordmasters of Hoth, Reavers, and Rangers. Honestly, this one Chaos Warrior unit would probably win against all three of those, but with Imric there, it's going to be very dicey. But at this point, I think we could win on one objective now. Probably not quite. It'd be very, very close, but we're about to hit 1,200 points, so we're getting very, very close to that. And here the Fleshhound's moving in to clear out the Silverins with the support of the Skull Cannon, which is kind of munching on these guys. Valkia is going to get down and dirty, try and pick off some of the horsemen. And I'm also going to be sending some warriors to my opponent's back objective, just because, you know, I know I have a good stranglehold here, and it's going to take like 10 years to get rid of this warrior. So send them to objective 1, force my opponent to kind of deal with it. And, you know, it's the strength of those big armored troops. Honestly, this playstyle that I'm doing, you could play this way with Warriors of Chaos as well. You could bring Marauder Horsemen throwing axes, you could go Chaos Warriors, you could go Sigvald, or someone like that, maybe like, you know, an Archeon type character, and it would totally work. Like, that's kind of the shame about Chaos in the previous patch, is that they were so defined by their abusive units that are just grossly overpowered. And I'm not talking something that's really good and like maybe a little bit overpowered. I'm talking things that are brokenly overpowered, like Hellstriders. You know, Hellstriders just defined Warriors of Chaos. Like, every build was contoured around them, and Bellic were, you know, a little bit of a problem child as well. But nonetheless, it'll be really interesting to see how Warriors of Chaos are after some of the changes. Of course, we'll be covering all that, so stay tuned. So, Chaos Warriors moving to the back point. Sisters trying to snipe Valkia. I was paying a little bit of attention there, so we are able to juke that as we get a big shot coming down. Skull Cannon able to pop those guys, and it's getting a little bit danger close. We do have capture weight on the back point with those Chaos Warriors. And yeah, we might be able to even steal that one. A couple Marauder Horsemen trying to get around here with their throwing axes against the Dragon Princes. And again, I think Khorne Marauder Horsemen are so cool. The fact that they're so good at melee is awesome. And a little bit of damage against Imric doesn't matter. I guess it baits out heals on him instead of like Dragon Princes and things like that getting healed. But look how long these Chaos Warriors are holding. It's pretty insane against like an elite Shock Cav unit as well as Imric. It takes them so long to get those guys down. Swordmasters would probably cut through them pretty quickly, but the Swordmasters were brought in the opening army, and most of them kind of got crumped by a combination of tactics and you know, the Blood Throne, as well as the old Fleshhounds kind of rear charging them and whatnot. So Warriors holding. We're at 1423 points. Imric cannot be everywhere at once. Just kind of throwing horsemen out of the battlefield now to try and make sure we can secure these. Nice breath attack from my opponent is going to be tickling them and taking out quite a few of those models here, as the Chaos Warriors and the Fleshhounds continue to grind into ye old Dragon Princes. So that is probably going to be it. GG, well played. Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne. We hold on to the points, and that is going to be it. So that was a close game. Honestly, I really didn't think that the Warriors would trade well into his opening build. I was like, holy shit, triple Swordmaster into my, you know, basically something they should counter. But the even though these things didn't get crazy value, they still made enough of a difference and killed enough models that they were able to help me win. And obviously, Marauder Horse and Throwing Axes are pretty good. Not like crazy value. Like, 2 of them paid for themselves. I mean, if you average out all their damage, they paid for themselves just barely, right? Fleshhound's huge MVPs. Like, the Fleshhounds killing the Sisters was huge. They had a lot of armor piercing. Were definitely putting hurt on me. 22, 15, 1700, but they were also summoned like 2 or 3 times each. I think twice each. So, you know, give or take, some of them really, really shined for sure. Depends on what they're able to pick. Forsaken, I would probably cut, honestly. Just get like 2 Marauders instead. Something like that. But overall, it was quite a bit of fun. Dude, Imric is actually pretty good. Like, he's tough. It's kind of similar to Malekith. Like, he's not as good as Malekith because he isn't as independent, but in terms of like killing stuff, man, he is really scary. So GG, well played to my opponent here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And Khorne, I think, is a faction I really want to focus on this patch. Really, really excited for them. Anyways, GG, well played. See you guys next time, and that'll be it for today.